Charlene is oppressing me.
What?
Hello, welcome to Dangerous Policy, a channel aimed at intelligent people wanting to discuss important issues facing life and society. My name is Crispin, and as you would all know, that by far and away the most popular part of the show is my colleague Charlene, who does the video editing and sits here with the Week in Review. And new data has come out from the United States showing that for the first time, Asian women now earn more than white men, and I am feeling utterly oppressed. It is a total outrage, and she needs to give me a pay rise. It is, I mean, obviously, this is a product of historical injustice, and as a consequence, I think that I need reparations for what has happened here based on my race and my gender and the oppression. And I mean, Charlene, I mean, have you ever seen a more obvious tyrant? Just a product of cultural appropriation. I mean, like, she speaks with an Australian accent. What's with that? I mean, just how does she get away with doing that? I mean, come on. Like, we're all eating with chopsticks now. I just can't deal. I mean, obviously I'm joking, but it just goes to show what an absurd way of carving up society based on skin color and gender actually is, right? Because if you only apply it to, then it's a race to the bottom. Okay, if the white man isn't the top of the economic pyramid, but is relative higher to other groups that you can slice and dice on racial and gender characteristics, then you ignore whoever's at the top of the pyramid, and then you continue to attack people in that middle ground. And then, of course, you can't justify it based on economic and social justice. It just becomes straight racism and sexism. If you're saying, okay, being a white male makes you wealthier than being, say, a black woman in the United States, for argument's sake, and yet there are 4 or 5 different categories above that white male. Well, if you're not attacking the people at the very top, then you can't really say it's anything other than straight bigotry to attack people in the middle. Okay, it's like it's a race to the bottom in our society, and the fact, the reasons why Asian women in the United States are doing so well economically is a product of some obvious things. One, they work damn hard. I mean, I don't know about Charlene, but most work damn hard. No, of course she works amazing. And they're very intelligent. I mean, the average IQ is higher than it is for Caucasians. That's just a fact, right? And the educational outcomes are vastly greater. They're working tirelessly on their education. They get much higher rates of admission unless there's a racial bias against them, in the case of Harvard University. But done fairly, they get appropriate admissions, which leads them to high economic professions. And we're seeing, young women are generally in university far higher rates than men overall, except for literally 2 professions, computer science and engineering. And Asian women are overrepresented there as well. So, of course, in a fair, meritocratic society, those that are working hard get higher grades, are admitted to university, get better qualifications, are likely to have higher incomes because they're doing jobs that contribute more to society in terms of growing the economy and providing essential services. So hats off to the Asian women who are getting their just rewards for effort, clearly in a meritocratic society that does not have, structural gender racism and sexism and all of that anywhere near to the degree in which you would construct an entire worldview around that, which is what we see with the kind of woke intersectional left today. And I don't say that to be to say that our society is perfect. I was historically on the left, but I was historically on the left for reasons that I still believe in, that is progressive taxation, compulsory superannuation, access to education, access to healthcare, to make sure that your individual disadvantage, your economic disadvantage, your social dislocation doesn't prevent you from competing in a meritocratic way. So those things that make it very hard for people to get access to things that they would otherwise enjoy, I'm in favour of improving. And I was shown an article today about one of Charlene's friends who is doing a program on encouraging more women into tech fields. And I think that's great, because it means that one of the problems with tech is, yes, the majority of people who get into tech or don't self-select, they're just not interested. But then also, if you just see a wave of guys in a boys' club, then you might, if you were interested in tech as a woman, be deterred from applying because of the fact that it's perceived as a certain culture. And so things that arrest that and make sure that, no, if you're really good at something and you're interested in it, you should definitely go for it, is something that I think is a perfectly good position, and something that, my natural conservatism would adopt. But to say that it's because of structural sexism and racism clearly isn't true. And we're seeing that borne out in the evidence that, white males are no longer anywhere near the top of the pyramid in the United States. And then if you look at the latest research, and we'll have that on the screen, from the UK, the lowest education outcomes as working class white boys. That's astonishing, right? In the UK, we have these new fields where scholarships are being handed out at Cambridge and Oxford purely on the basis of racial characteristics that are obviously not white. And yet working class white boys, particularly in rural UK, have by far the worst education and economic outcomes in the entire United Kingdom. So these are, I just want to have it just annihilate this whole thing. And I'm really pleased that, in the case of the United States, the people that are working hard and actually getting an education and going out and contributing to society and contributing to economic growth and creating jobs for others and improving services and well-being are actually being economically rewarded. And that, frankly, turns out to be a lot of Asian women. So well done to them. No envy on the part of my whiteness that that's the case. Why? Because I know that's not a barrier. People can do it if they work. And those that are barriers are usually self-deterred, i.e. that we see things that have perception is about, whether or not you go into nursing or whether or not you go into other female-led professions, the perception that there is a cultural shock there. Well, that's true. That is a deterrent. And that's a deterrent that is unrelated to one's ability or expertise or interest or talent. And therefore, we should do those things to break those things down a bit. I also think that we should do more to get more gender equal representation in politics, mostly because, unlike other professions, politics is there to be a representative democracy, i.e. representative of the citizenry. And therefore, because in Australia and most parts of the world, we have more than 50% of people who are female, we should have a similar representation in Parliament. And I think that actually will improve, that's not about social justice. I actually think that's just about improving the governance, because when I see those individuals in Parliament who have abnormal backgrounds, those people who are working class, those people who come from as hairdressers or truck drivers or tradies or flight attendants or whoever who end up in politics, they bring a real life perspective. Whereas what we have in our politics today, the vast majority of people have gone and done a law degree. They then became a unionist or a staffer. They then, through patronage, got into a safe seat through, various manipulations of branch stacking and pre-selection, get into Parliament and then sit there and do their little little grind and then become a minister and so on. There is a pathway for politicians. Professionalization of politicians that is extremely narrow, extremely insular, and very power driven. I think that we need to democratize that, and one of those things is gender diversity. But by and large, in terms of our society, it is a very pernicious thing to ascribe privilege or to create a worldview about our society based on one's racial and gender characteristics. How about we have a raceless and genderless society when it comes to meritocracy? That would be great. And I just keep coming back to that quote from Sam Harris, which just resonates to the very core of my being. We have to start treating skin color like we treat hair color. And that's because that is literally the value that it has in our society in an objective way. And you can carve it up as many ways as you like. And I wouldn't be surprised in 20, 25 years, if we keep going down this path, that there will be a racial gender backlash against the Asian American females who now control everything in our society. That's the end state. If we continue down this path, we have to course correct as fast as possible. That's my view. Happy to engage on this discussion. Just be generous and polite about it. There'll be people of wildly different views, and I know this particular issue is controversial and arouses passion, but we do have a discussion about it, because I like Martin Luther King, have a dream that we can live in a society where people are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.